Hello, and welcome to Cocktails with a Twist of History, your digital destination for all things cocktails. The Savoy Bar and Hotel is still opened after all these years. I guess I never stopped to look. They claim to be the longest surviving cocktail bar in London. Well, that's what they say. It definitely can't be the oldest pub, but London is very old, but cocktails moved to London later than they did in the US. The Savoy itself opened in 1893 and served everyone famous at the time. Winston Churchill was there, Ernest Hemingway, Mark Twain. Big names would always go there. The Savoy Bar created legends in both cocktails and bartenders. I've talked about the famous Harry Craddock, but there was someone very interesting before him, probably taught him how to be a bartender, and that bartender was a woman. In 1903, and this was very, very rare. Her name was Ada Coleman, but people called her Coley. The actor, Charles Hawtrey, was a comedic actor, and he was a frequent customer when Coley was bartending. He was a kind of a drunk Don Knotts, which is an interesting character. He often played a bewildered, flustered, and mischievous character, and sometimes incorporated his real-life drinking into his roles. There were a series of movies called the Carry On movies, the last one being Carry On Sergeant, and that was in 1958. The cocktail she created was called the Hanky Pankey. Since I've been talking way too long without a cocktail in my hand, let's make a Hanky Pankey. It is a gin cocktail, as a lot of the cocktails in those days were, and it is a stirred cocktail, so we are going to need our stirring glass. So we are going to put in 2 ounces of London Dry gin. We are going to need our vermouth, and as I've always said, I tend to use a little bit less of vermouth than they say. They said to use 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth. I'm only going to use a small amount. Here we go. And it needs a teaspoon of something called Fernet Branca. Fernet Branca is a dark and bittery sweet kind of liqueur. I'm actually going to use something called Averna, which is very similar. Averna is probably a little bit more orangey than the Fernet Branca, but we are going to use that instead, just because I don't usually have Fernet Branca in my house. Here we go. And we're just using a tiny bit. Both of them are very potent, so you really don't want to use a lot of it. Okay, I said this is a stirred cocktail, so we are going to put in our ice. And as always, you need to have a lot of ice. And we're going to put our ice into the shaker. Here we go. Lots and lots of ice into the shaker. I'm sorry, not into the shaker, into the stirring glass. And we're going to stir. It does not need a lot of stirring. It is sort of kind of like in the martini family. So we are going to put it into a coupe glass. We have our Hawthorne strainer. And here we go. We are going to put it into the coupe glass. The whole thing goes in. All right, look at that. And we are going to put in an orange twist. And here we go. I did a little fancy thing over here to put it on the side. And now we've got our orange on the side. And let's taste a Hanky Pankey. Wow, that is a really interesting cocktail. You taste the gin, but the Averna and the vermouth really does something different to it. It's not like a classic martini. The Averna really makes it a different drink. Okay, and it does go into the coupe glass. It really does make a big difference what kind of a glass you would put this in, because it really is a powerful drink. It's really just mostly gin. Ada Coleman became the bartender after her father died when she was very young. And in 1899, she was 24 and already started working in the bars as a bartender. But later, she moved to the up-and-coming bar, the Savoy American Bar, as the head bartender, and this was in 1903. And she was there until 1926. Another one of her customers was Mark Twain, but the cocktail she's known for was really the request of this Harry Hawtrey. And this was that comedic actor that we were talking about. He said, quote, "Coley, I'm tired. Give me something with a bit of punch to it." She makes him this cocktail with gin, sweet vermouth, and adds a bit of the Fernet Branca, and that's what gives it the herbal flair. His reply is, "By Jove, this is really hanky panky." Hanky panky was the British slang at the time for magic or magical, and the name stuck. It's written in Harry Craddock's book, and he references Ada Coleman as the creator, but I find it interesting that he doesn't reference any of the other cocktails to her. So I don't know what that's about. But as always, you can put more information into the comments. You can send us something by email, or you can tell it to the bottle. We want to know. Also, please make sure to follow, please make sure to like and subscribe, and to send a link of this show to somebody so that they can enjoy cocktails with a twist of history. Thank you.